Hey everybody. On the show today, we have Carlee Myers. As the founder of Work You Love, Carlee is an expert at helping professionals who feel overworked, overwhelmed, or on the verge of burnout relieve the stress and build careers that allow them to find time for what's most important for them. I had a really good chat with Carlee, and one of the things that she shared was that it was a traumatic event when she was 12 where she experienced PTSD that forced her to learn how to manage overwhelm and anxiety. And that's what's been able to help her clients do the same. Check it out. My name is Emmy Kirshner. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. The one thing that I get asked all the time is, how do you achieve success in business and make an impact? In each episode of the Tribe of Leaders podcast, you'll hear from entrepreneurs and visionaries who share how their leadership has changed not only their lives, but the lives of everybody around them. Hey everybody, I'm Emmy Kirshner, and today I have the most astounding Carlee Myers with us of Work You Love. And Carlee, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about our conversation.
Yeah, me too. Share with everybody a little bit about who you are and what makes you a rock star.
Absolutely. So like Emmy said, I'm Carlee Myers. I'm the founder of Work You Love. And what I do is I help people who are overworked, who are overwhelmed, who are on the verge of burnout, really relieve stress and think strategically about their next career moves. A little fun fact about me, I love dancing on hardwood floors and socks. So that'll give you my personality type there too. But
so you're sliding a little bit, right?
Yeah, you do the slide. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, awesome. I love that.
Thank you.
Super fun fact. Share with people too, because I get I'm working in corporate or I'm working in a job I've been in forever, or I took a job, whatever their thing is, right? And I feel overwhelmed and I don't know, and I want to do something differently and I don't know what that should be. Right? Where are people kind of at this point, like, come help me, and how do they, right? And then how are you able to help, them find kind of the right path for them? So I'm sure it's different for everybody.
Yeah. So a lot of people will come to me at the point where they've had enough, where the boss said something, the coworker did something, they get sick, right? There's just something that like snaps internally within them and they're like, I got to get out. A lot of people will come to me for the strategy side of things and then realize that there's a lot more to it than just, putting together your resume or your documents to get out. And so that's usually the tipping point. I'll talk to people who they're in that corporate role and they'll say, I hear this time and time again, which is, I just fell into this line of work. It was the first job I got out of college. I got the experience and I hated that job, but that experience led to another job with, where that experience built on that. And, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, you're in an industry or in a position or in a role that you didn't even want for yourself to begin with. So we have this kind of like quarter life and midlife crisis around our professional identity. And yeah, so what we do is, my role is really in, first of all, getting us out of this like scarcity mindset and this headspace where our life is falling apart. And then we think about really like, what is your calling? What is your purpose? And those are two different things. So we sit down and we say, okay, at the end of the day, like what is the feeling that you want to feel? Mm-hmm. And we take that umbrella feeling, and we use that as kind of the guidepost to get us to, well, I'm put on this earth to help women with stress, or I'm put on this earth to, help with communication, or whatever that more vague thing is. And then we figure out their calling. Yeah.
Really help them gain clarity around what their purpose and their why is.
Exactly.
And then is it identifying the feeling that they have currently that they don't want, or what they do want?
What they do want. So your core desired feeling, we do reflect, absolutely, but we really like to create a vision for the future. So when we think about our core desired feeling, it's an umbrella feeling. It encompasses all of the beautiful states of mind that you would want to be in. Mm-hmm. So for instance, for me, my core desired feeling is expansiveness. What's great about it is that it doesn't have to make sense to anyone else, that word, but what it encompasses for me is the feeling that I get when I'm dancing on hardwood floors and socks, or the feeling that I get when my partner unlocks the dishwasher, or the feeling that I get when a client gets, her dream job. all of those different feelings. And so that's creating a vision of a trajectory of where you want to be.
Right. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I love that. Like I have 3 words from my year, and I know a lot of people have been kind of picking up on that one word thing. I'm curious too, because you said you use core desired feelings. So for me, that's a Danielle Laporte thing from the Desire Map. Have you read her stuff? Or?
Yeah. Her stuff is phenomenal, and it's definitely the inspiration for how I got to this place to use that, because it, at the end of the day, a lot of us are unfulfilled because we're not in touch with our core values, our core desires. And that's kind of, that's exactly, I'm glad
you want to feel. That's so awesome. Well, how did you come into this career? Like, was it a happy accident? What was the path of creating, a place where you get to help make these really amazing transformations for people?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story. So I would have to we'll kind of rewind back to when I was young. When I was 12 years old, I experienced a trauma. So I struggled with PTSD for a really long time. And so I had to figure out ways to cope with that stress, with that anxiety, with the overwhelm. Mm-hmm. And how do I show up in my professional life, in my personal life, the whole 9 yards. And so growing up, where I had to grow up very quickly and I had to deal with, night terrors and overwhelm and all of that, that was a key start. And then you kind of fast forward to, I went to college for art because for me, art, creative stress reduction was the thing that worked. Getting into the workforce in arts administration. And then I ended up being bullied in the workplace. And so this combination of, I had to deal with overwhelm, anxiety, and all growing up. And then I had to deal with this in the workplace. And to find that 70% of people are either disengaged or unhappy at work was just ridiculous to me. So I decided that this was the path that I wanted to take. I wanted to help people. Overwhelm was something that I was really good at handling and dealing with. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be able to help people who are going through rough times. Maybe they're in a toxic work environment, help them get to the next phase where they can overcome this and they can step into their calling and into their purpose.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. So how do you help them lead? Because this is really a place if you're, and it doesn't even matter where you are in your career, but if you're unhappy in your job and you're not quite sure what to do and they've taken the big step to work with you, they're really in a place, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but where they're ready to take a leadership role in their own lives by having some of the self-discovery. So what does that look like, and how do you help them be a leader?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I think the first part where we talked earlier is really about a reflection. Oftentimes I'll have my clients kind of take the bird's eye view of their life and say, this is my memoir. Like, if this was my memoir, what would the chapter names be? What would the phases of my life be? And we look at, the chapter that they're currently in when they meet me. And usually, we name it. And usually it's something ridiculous. Like, there's funny, some of my clients are funnier. They'll name their chapters like stress and address. Or there'll be other times where it's, just today I had a client name her chapter, and hers was the small woman dealing with sexual harassment. Like, we really sit and we look at where have we given our power away? Right. Where have we taken a passive role? And so we name that. And then that really gets us clear. It gets us feisty. It gets us, coming out with, just with the motivation and the wherewithal. And then we think about, okay, we name our next chapter. And that really helps them say, oh, I'm the one who turns the page. I'm the author of this book. And then, of course, we have all sorts of different mindset exercises and work that we do to help them step in and to understand their ability to be a leader. But that's a starting point, is finding that fire. And also, quite frankly, even when I first started working with a coach of mine, when I started my business, I borrowed some belief in my ability to be a leader. Mm-hmm. There was a mentor out there that believed in me, and I had to borrow that. And that's what helped.
One of the cool things about that, about having a mentor or another coach, is not only are they pushing you and kind of showing you the way, but they really force you in a good way, but to step up and into the leadership piece even more.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's accountability.
Yeah. So what were some of the things that you had to step into?
There have been a lot of things that I've had to step into in my life. And is there anything specific in terms of my business, in terms of that you're really looking for?
No, just like what's like the one thing that you think, has really helped you transition into leading yourself, your business, the people you work with? Like for me, because I love doing strategy and planning, I really had to get good at the whole calendaring piece. And I'm far more creative, despite having a logical side or analytical side. And I wanted this whole open day.
Yeah.
Having my feet held to the fire about something that I really resisted. And I now am like so passionate that I am, practically swinging from, the trees about like, please just use your calendar. Freedom is on the other side. So something like that, what would that be for you?
That's interesting. Yeah. So I think the first thing that I was really resistant to when I first started my company in stepping up and being a leader was admitting that I wasn't a Jane of all trades, right? I didn't have the foundations of some of the business foundations that I needed. I needed someone like you, Emmy. And so for me, like a big step was admitting that, like, I don't have all the knowledge, but I'm going to take it, right? Just like you with the calendar piece, you're like, I don't want to do this, but I know I need to do it. And so that was a huge piece for me to step into being the leader that I am, is to say, I don't know it all, and I'm going to go out and find the information that I need by hiring a coach, by hiring a staff member, partnering with people, attending things. That was a huge stepping point for me.
Well, I think that admitting piece is really big, right? 'Cause it's so much easier to be like, I'm just going to do it this way and stay in my channel and my lane, and I know the way. But that's not where growth comes from, right? And that first step of admittance is...
Yeah. And it's funny, this year, like I sit down at the end or beginning of every year, and I evaluate, like, what has the last year been for me. This year, I did an exercise. I did something a little different. I did the Mel Robbins Mindset Reset as a way, at the beginning of that program, you kind of go through and you rank things. For me, what I had to step into this year was when I looked and reflected on 2018, I realized there were some things that when I thought about them, like I sent out an email that I accidentally, there was something wrong with it. I still 8 months later felt horrible about talking about admitting things. Like I had to admit to myself that I had done something, like I had sent a crappy email. And that was a huge stepping stone for me, was to admit that I'm not perfect and I did something wrong, and to create the stepping into being a leader was to, first of all, to come forth with that, and also to say, well, what am I going to do with my team to make sure that this doesn't happen again? So being a good leader is oftentimes really saying, I am not perfect. I've got flaws, and yes, I've got flaws, but we're not going to let them sit and be. We're going to work on them, and we're going to do everything we can to step up.
Do you find that when you own your mistakes, that it makes your team stronger too, because it gives them the opportunity to own their stuff, and you can all work together to make whatever the thing that's not working better? Or do you have a different perspective? Or
no, I think 100%. I think that the more human you are, is the better, right? My team, when I'm able to admit I made a mistake, they're less afraid, first of all, to admit when they make one, but also they're also more willing to call me out. And quite frankly, we need that. We need our leaders to be able to handle feedback gracefully, and take that in stride. And I think, for me, I've really strived, or I continue to strive to really have that relationship with my team, for them to be able to say, hey, this thing that we're doing, I'm not really a fan of, or we should do it this way. Because at the end of the day, it's not about yes, I have the vision and I'm driving, but we're a team, and my team really understands we have a bigger mission that we need to support.
Yeah. Well, and I think you can't get better, and you can't drive your team if you're not allowing feedback, because then you just have your blinders on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So what do you have new and exciting coming up over the next couple of months as you're growing your business, and what's some fun stuff for you that will help your clients?
Yeah. So I actually just a few months ago launched my lunchtime unwind program. So I'm so excited about that. And this is a program where we just meet via Zoom I meet via Zoom with a bunch of my clients, and we relax. We actually take our lunch breaks, and we take care of ourselves. And so I've been so excited about that program. Coming up, I've got my Stress Less Studio, which is an in-person 4-week experience where I'm teaching creative stress reduction in person for the first time. So I'm just so excited about that.
Yeah.
And getting that into the world. Yeah.
I think that's going to be so helpful. Let's talk about stress for a few minutes because, I know from my health coaching days that stress is the cause of 90% of all disease or illness, and anything from colds to cancer. I hear it from teenagers, in high school to people who are ready to sell their businesses, how busy, overworked, overscheduled, stressed out they are. And for me, it's really concerning because you can't reach your potential if you're in that space. So, do you feel like it's an epidemic at this point? And what are some things we can do to kind of chill out and let go of some of that stress?
Yeah, so I do think it's an epidemic. What I also think is an epidemic is that we're viewing stress as a bad thing. I believe I forget the name of the person who did the TED Talk, but she talks about how just the belief that stress is bad for us causes more stress. In fact, actually, stress, we hold it in our body in the exact same way as we hold excitement. And so it's the mindset piece around stress has been an epidemic. And I've been a victim of getting sick from being stressed out, right? I think we all have. And even, I hear time and time again, people who will be stressed out and they'll snap at loved ones. Like they'll let the anger or the overwhelm or whatever get the best of them. And so it's not only affecting our health, but it's affecting our relationships and our quality of life in so many ways.
And our productivity, our performance.
Yeah.
So, it affects all areas of your business.
Yeah. If we can't think clearly, we can't even show up to be the best version of ourselves. We won't be able to grow the business that we think, that we're destined to grow in the way that it should be grown, right? Like we won't be able to get emails out without errors, right? Yeah. Simple things. And so what, I found to be really helpful are a few things. So the first few things are pretty common, right? So there's meditation. That's a huge factor in reducing stress. We hear it all the time. We know we should do it. Yeah. Yes. Another piece is journaling, specifically morning pages. Have you heard of morning pages, Emmy?
Yeah. I don't do morning pages. I do journal pretty much every morning, but just the free flow of morning pages. I get into a routine by the time I'm there, but it's still, I think, very cathartic. And
yeah. And so morning pages are really great. I have clients that use them all the time because
what that is for listeners who don't know what it is.
So basically what you do is it's you sit down and it's stream of consciousness writing. But you limit it to 3 pages. If you want to go above that, you can. But really what you're doing is you're letting that inner child go wild for a minute. So if you wake up and you sit down to do your morning pages and you're, angry that you had to, get up at 6 a.m. to get to work, or goodness, the kid did this, or, whatever, you're really just letting it all out. You're saying, you're going through and you're like, why the, heck do I have to do this? And you're just letting yourself, in some instances, complain or be sad or feel what you're feeling. And so oftentimes morning pages is about just being present with your emotions. Now, what's great about this 3-page, goal is that usually by the end of the 3 pages, you've solved all your problems.
Yeah.
So you're worried about the fact that, you're mad because you had to get up at 6 a.m. Well, by the end of it, you're like, oh, well, maybe I should get to bed by, 9 p.m. Right? You're creating systems. I know for me, or, figuring out a different work schedule with your, however that works, but you're really letting the emotions have space so that they can flow through you and not be trapped in you.
Right.
And then addressing those. So journaling and morning pages are great, which it sounds, Emmy, like you're doing stream of consciousness. So it's pretty much the same.
It's a little more formulated, but yeah.
Yeah.
I can write neatly. And if I'm doing complete stream of conscious, there's no writing neatly.
Yeah. Well, and a great way to do morning pages, and I've done it this way, is to do it via like in Evernote or like on your computer in a Word doc, so that your fingers don't, your hand doesn't cramp up. But so journaling is another really great way to reduce stress. Now, if you're like Dan Harris says, he's a mindfulness expert, if you're a fidgety skeptic, like you can't sit down and you can't get yourself to, breathe, listen to your breath and be quiet and really be present with your emotions or in that type of way. What I found really helpful, especially when I was dealing with PTSD, and I've seen this with my clients, is, allow yourself to doodle, allow yourself to scribble, to draw, to bake that cake. Like there are so many different, fix the motorcycle. There are lots of different things that we can be doing that are what I would consider creative stress reduction, that let us be present with our feelings and emotions, but in a non-verbal way, in a non-linguistic way.
And you're suggesting all things that are kind of tactile and movement oriented, which it does. I mean, I know it gets trapped in, so, the first place you get it is like in your shoulders. But it does allow you to release that physically, which I think sometimes is not that you don't want to not talk about it, but can be even more effective and long term.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that, like, if you're in a work environment, just talking about your career here, like there are environments in which you have to be careful about what you say. It's just the reality. And so sometimes you can't verbally process things with a coworker or a staff member, because it's just not appropriate. And so there are other ways in which, this is why yoga is so popular these days, because we're able to get this emotion, this overwhelm, to just move through and out of our body. So the shoulders, the eyebrows, a lot of us are feeling it in our backs. Yeah. We're able to move through that.
Yeah. I love yoga.
Yeah.
I don't do it every day, but like a couple of times a week, and just from the stretching perspective of getting your body flowing and fluid is so helpful and relaxing and calming, and doing the breathing with it. Yeah.
And what's interesting is that, like, even like, here's a simple exercise. Like if you're stressed out, the other night I went to a friend's house for dinner, and I wasn't able to just release the thoughts of the day. And she had a bar stool that happened to swivel. And so, her and I just sat there with our hands on the bar and just swiveled and got the fluids in our spine moving, right? And like, that's so goofy and silly, but it really helped us let go of our day and be able to be present with each other. And also just,
yeah, that's so awesome. And I'm laughing because I have this obsession with like rolly chairs. And anytime I can like find a flat surface and have like chair races, so maybe that's my stress coming out in a physical.
Yeah, I love that. And that's the thing. There's this like, the great thing about creative stress reduction is that it can be anything. Right. Like, so for you, it's like racing with the rolly chairs, and that's amazing.
And being silly, like it's because there's that laughter of I am doing something so completely ridiculous.
Yeah. And, I find, there's also this like point where you have to show up and be yourself. Like I've found when I first started networking years ago, I would get like, and I'm an extrovert, so networking is not too hard for me, but I would get nervous. Mm-hmm. And, I would just start conversations. Like I would start conversations and I would just move my arms and I'd be like, I'm sorry, but I'm so nervous. I got to get things flowing. And that seems weird and that seems quirky, but first of all, it helped me get back into my body and out of my head. And second of all, people would respond and be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm so nervous too. Like, thank goodness.
Icebreaker.
Yeah. So, being yourself can be an incredible icebreaker too with social anxiety. So, creative stress reduction can just show up anywhere, and it allows you to just be you.
I love it. That's so awesome. We've talked about so many things in a period of time. So just kind of recapping too, like love the core desired feeling and really like figuring out, what it is that you want to feel. Mm-hmm. I love the piece of really like admitting that you need help, that you don't always have the answers when you're wrong. I think those are all characteristics of, just moving into a place where you can really help people, inspire, but become, their best selves. And then the stress reduction is so key, so key.
Absolutely.
You have something super cool to share with everybody. So do you mind telling everybody what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So Emmy and I were talking about, what could I do for her community? What could I do for her tribe? And, I think one of the keys that we talked about here was stress and what do we do with it? And so what I want to do is I want to offer everyone who's listening or watching to sign up for a complimentary stress less clarity session with me. So we can figure out what is your block? What's triggering your stress? We didn't even talk about that today. What's the cause and how can we address that?
Yeah.
And create a plan for you to move forward so you don't have to live in this overwhelmed, stressed headspace. And so what you can do is you can visit workyouLove.as.me/strategy session.
And we'll have the link in the show notes, everybody. So
yeah,
you can take advantage of that super easily.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. And share with everybody too how they can connect with you.
Yes. So you can find me just about anywhere on social at workyoulovenow. And that's you spelled YOU, not the shortened version. You can find me at workyoulovenow.com. Pretty much anywhere Work You Love Now, you can find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to chatting with you again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Awesome. Yeah, and everybody else, we will see you next week. So until then, enjoy and have an amazing day. Have you ever thought about those times when if you had just known that one thing, it would have saved you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, or maybe days, weeks, or even months of your time? I've created the Tribe of Leaders membership community for exactly that reason, to give you the tools, the resources, and the support to make growing your business a snap. As a member, you'll have access to video training, live monthly training and masterminds, and special co-working days that will help you run your business like the CEO that you are. You can get all the details at thetribeofleaders.com. See you there.